Afternoon. I'm Officer Robert Reeves, the Public Information Officer for the Irving Police Department. I'm here to recap our officer-involved shooting and what kind of led up to that incident about 24 hours before that. On Thursday night at approximately 9:30 p.m., Irving officers responded to the 3300 block of Willow Creek for a shots fired call. There we found the victim, Juan Carlos Piedra Ceballos, deceased in his vehicle with gunshot wounds. Witnesses at the location identified our suspect, Carlos Munguia, 40 years old, of Irving, as our suspect that was having no conversation with that victim, walked up to his vehicle and just began shooting into the car. He fled on foot. Carlos was in the area. We began searching that area after being told he fled on foot. We searched through the night into the early morning hours when our fugitive unit was activated and came in early Friday morning to assist in tracking down this armed and dangerous fugitive who had already showed the tendency and the ability to kill a person. Throughout the day, through investigative leads and investigations on trying to find Carlos, our fugitive unit believed that he was in the area of the 3300 block of West State Highway 183. Around 7:30 p.m. on Friday, May 12th, the three officers of our fugitive unit contacted Carlos in the grass area in about the 3300 block of West State Highway 183 near the Trinity Broadcasting Network. They challenged Carlos, giving him verbal commands to get on the ground. He turned, pulled his handgun out that was loaded, and pointed it at the officers, and those three officers did fire at the suspect. Those officers then provided medical aid to Carlos before Irving Fire Department could get on scene, and they transported Carlos to the Parkland Hospital where he did succumb to his injuries down there. There were no Irving officers that were hurt in this incident. There was no continued threat to the public. We provided that update on Friday. This is obviously an officer-involved shooting. It's a process. This investigation takes a very long time to complete. Our investigators are going through that process, but we wanted to provide an update about our murder that occurred on Thursday night and the officer-involved shooting that occurred on Friday night. I will be having a Spanish here in a minute, but I'll go ahead and give some questions right now.
What is the nature, you believe, so far of the initial interaction between these two men?
So it's unknown. Unfortunately, the victim is deceased and our suspect is deceased, so we may not know exactly what provoked or caused that initial shooting for him to come down and confront him. But what witnesses said, it was that Carlos came out of his apartment, walked right up to the car. The windows were rolled up in that vehicle, said nothing, and just began shooting at the victim.
So far, do the witnesses or families say these two men knew each other, or this was random?
What the witnesses, there's no confirmation on that right now. That the investigators are working that. They're still investigating that murder, even though we are confident of who our suspect was who committed it. We're still investigating that murder to see if we can figure out why it might have occurred for that victim's family that is definitely wanting to know that. So they're going through and talking to witnesses, still interviews, and trying to put those pieces together. And then, of course, we ended up getting the officer-involved shooting Friday night. So there's another investigation now that's taking place as well. So our investigators are tied up on both of those incidences.
If I can ask, like other departments with Irving PD, is there officer body cam to be released, or what is the process there if it exists?
So the officers were wearing body camera footage. At this time, we're not releasing that. That may be released at a later date, but right now, it being so early, it's just we're not in a position to release it.
Yeah, the other reason I asked, Robert, I know that like Fort Worth and Dallas, make a point of trying to get it out as soon as possible. Is that something that you think will eventually happen in this case?
That is unknown. We let the investigators decide a lot of times on the need to release the evidence, and the district attorney's office. We consult with them to see if releasing that body footage is going to jeopardize any part of the investigation of the officer-involved shooting. We don't want to taint a grand jury that might see the video and come up with a conclusion one way or the other. So that's why we're not releasing anything at this time. Any other questions?
But as you described it, these were officers, and if you could say it in your words one more time, these are officers who were responding to a man raising a weapon at them?
Oh, 100%. So they were in the area. These are our fugitive unit officers. They're highly trained and specialized in apprehensions. They approached the suspect. The suspect presented a firearm. That firearm was loaded, and he did point that at the officers before they actually engaged him.
And you'll likely do it in a written release, but can you give us his full name again, your suspect?
So the
Spell it for us.
suspect's name is Carlos, last name Munguia, and he's 40 years of age, born in '82.
Have you guys had any other run-ins with this particular suspect, or does he have a criminal history in Irving?
So we do have a previous history with him in Irving where he has committed an assault by using a knife as a weapon in that assault. And he does have a criminal history out of Florida as well of narcotics and assaultive behavior.
Can you answer once again how you knew that was your suspect?
Through witness testimony that witnessed him commit the shooting and the murder of the victim Thursday night. They knew, the witnesses knew that suspect, so when they saw him, they knew who he was.
So did he live at that apartment complex?
Yes,
So he came out of his apartment complex with a gun?
correct. He came out of his apartment complex, walked downstairs, and walked up to the victim's vehicle and began firing. So definitely a very violent individual. That's why we were looking for him. Our fugitive unit was trying to track him down. This is definitely someone we didn't want to just put a warrant out for and hope that we found him at a later date. He had already shown that his willingness to kill somebody. He still was known to have the weapon on his person, and that's why our officers were looking for him to protect the public.
He was shot and killed.
He was shot, and then he died after he was administered first aid at the hospital. Any other questions? Okay, I'm now going to turn it over to my Spanish public information officer, Jesus Alvarez.
Buenas tardes, soy el oficial Álvarez de Relaciones Públicas con el Departamento de la Policía de Irving de la ciudad de Irving. Estoy aquí para hablar de dos eventos que pasaron la semana pasada. El primer evento pasó el jueves 11 de mayo, aproximadamente a las 9:30 de la noche, donde tuvimos un homicidio en la cuadra de la 3300 Willow Creek Drive, donde luego identificamos como nuestro sospechoso a Carlos Munguia, residente de la ciudad de Irving y tenía 40 años. Sin motivo y razón, descargó su pistola ante nuestra víctima, Juan Carlos Piedra Ceballos, de 37 años, también residente de la ciudad de Irving. Uno de nuestros testigos nos contó que el sospechoso bajó de su apartamento y inmediatamente empezó a descargar contra Juan, que estaba sentado en su vehículo. Inmediatamente después de matar a Juan, el sospechoso se dio a la fuga a pie. Inmediatamente esa noche se dio la orden de arresto para el sospechoso. A la labor de la investigación y pistas obtenidas, determinamos la locación del sospechoso. A la mañana del 12 de mayo, nuestra unidad de fugitivos empezaron a ayudar con la aprehensión. Alrededor de las 7:30 de la tarde, nuestros oficiales localizaron al sospechoso a pie. Cuando los oficiales intentaron aprender, el sospechoso sacó su pistola y se la apuntó a nuestros oficiales. Nuestros oficiales respondieron, descargando su arma hacia el sospechoso. Momentos después, los oficiales dieron ayuda médica hasta que los paramédicos llegaron y siguieron dando atención médica. El sospechoso fue trasladado al hospital Parkland, donde falleció debido a sus heridas aproximadamente a las 8:30 de la noche. Luego identificamos que el arma que fue apuntada hacia nuestros oficiales estaba cargada. Por el momento voy a tomar preguntas si es que las tienen.
Puedes decir la edad de la persona, que el shooter, puedes hablar de si tenía antecedentes previos, que es lo que hablaron en inglés.
Claro. El sospechoso, como lo recalqué, tenía 40 años de edad y tenía un récord criminal basado aquí en Texas y en el estado de Florida. Lo que vimos que tenía cargos de drogas y varios asaltos.
Todavía no se sabe la razón real del por qué hizo esto.
Obviamente esta investigación se está dando, pero lo que nos dijeron nuestros testigos es de que se vio que fue sin motivo y razón. ¿Alguna otra más pregunta?
¿Por qué?
Gracias, buenas tardes.